All right, here we are. Welcome to our Wednesday movement. I'm Zoe Levine, and today I do hope most of you that are here have your ball kit that is being offered. If you haven't gotten that yet, please grab one for yourselves. It's been very valuable to have. We are going to work today. We've been doing a lot of review. We've done hands, feet. We've done work around the hips with the balls. Now we're going to go. I don't know. I always feel like it's a little bit off-roading with them instead of just the hands or the feet or these main parts. We're gonna work on the forearm. You can work on the chest, all the areas that tend to get tight, especially with our tight neck and shoulders, elbow issues, wrist problems. So we're gonna use the balls in a couple of areas to help support that today. Hi, Diane. Hi, Kristen. We're just getting started anyway because I got a little chatty in the beginning, getting to know some of you. Do make sure you have your balls though. We're going to start with a little bit of a hand treatment. We'll focus mostly on upper body work to support, like we were just talking about, neck, shoulders, elbows, wrists. We will use the balls in that kind of off-roading way next week to work a little bit more around the feet and legs in ways that we haven't done yet, and that are a little bit more I don't know, it's a little bit more playful, a little different. So starting with the hand, a version of the hand treatment, and I hope I have this up high enough where I'll be able to kind of show down here. This out of the way. So we have just easy hands. The firm ball I like for this one. This firm ball is a little bit, it feels big sometimes. If you prefer, you could kind of choose, but as we go, either of these, just something firm, I think feels nice for the hands. And we're going to start with the mini hand treatment like we played with before. So we're really going to focus on this lower part of the hand here, starting with that thumb pad. So fingertips just heavy on your desk or table in front of you, and you can get that massaging sort of sensation around the thick padding of your thumbs. And we've talked about that as we age, we kind of lose space in our joints. The thumb starts to look like this, and you can kind of feel as you're massaging that, you're feeling that opening of the space and saying, hey, you know what? I'm actually going to need that space, so please don't take it away from me, because our bodies want to work efficiently. If you're not using it, it's that move it or lose it. If you're not using it, your body's like, oh, you clearly don't need that. And this is you just saying, actually, yeah, we're going to need that space. And then you can start and give that a little pressure and stillness. So we've been moving and massaging. It's nice to have that moment of just firm pressure. And then you're going to try gliding side to side across the bottom of the palm. And it almost makes a little smiley face back and forth. And it's very similar to how we do right in front of your heel, that gliding back and forth. Sometimes that's going to feel really gritty or sore. Just notice what you've got there. And then the next piece, you can rinse fingertips up the forearm, just with whatever space you have, fingertips up the forearm. So you get a little bit of love for this under part of the forearm. But as you can imagine, with really probably with a little bit driving, but definitely with being on a computer, a lot of the working parts of your forearm is actually the top, which we will get to in a moment. This is just kind of a review to prep our tissues for other things. And we're going to do the same things to the other side. So other hand, there's that thick padding. We sometimes lose the space. So with fingertips down and with a tolerable amount of pressure that feels nice, that feels good, you can start circling. It doesn't matter which direction. You can play with both, but massage the heck out of that tissue on the thumb pad. And once we do that shearing, you can have a little moment to hold. Sometimes it's nice to give a little pressure from something else. You don't have to push from your shoulders, right? And then that gliding side to side, and notice fingers are touching and kind of staying down, so you're not randomly kind of floating all over the place. You have a little structure to that gliding side to side. And there's that curve, that almost smile at the base of the palm that you're following. Good. And then from there, we have the rinse, fingertips up the forearm. And you're just going to go as far as your space allows, as far as your comfortable reach allows. fingertips up the forearm, and I'm letting each finger or set of fingers get a little moment here without being too precious about it. You don't have to kind of one at a time carefully follow a finger. You can kind of several at a time generally follow your fingers up the forearm. And again, this lower part of the forearm often isn't quite as overworked and underpaid as the top part here that's here. Can you see when you're moving your fingers, all of these tendons are controlled from all the muscles up here. We're going to get there in a moment. Let's review this I always say is kind of it's kind of a large ball for this, but you can try to place it as deep in between your fingers as possible. And you may not be able to make a full fist because it's rather large, especially if your hands are a bit tight, or you're already dealing with some arthritis, but just as close as you can to making a fist, kind of head toward that within comfort, right? Within, might be hard, but it's comfortable in a way. And you just squeeze and release a couple of times and try the same thing as you're moving along. If this is too large, also keep in mind, you see how this is just, it's generally like a super ball, like a bouncy ball. So if you ever see one in like a little, we used to be a quarter, but maybe 50 cents thing at the grocery store, or it's just a little bouncy ball hanging around that's smaller than this, grab that and you can use that if it feels better, if this feels too big. Right, so it's very simple. You can always add to your collection and keep using the pouch and collect the various balls that work for you. You can do in front of this webbing at the thumb, a little squeeze. And this is great for, so even if you kept your hands on a steering wheel all day and you haven't been, typing, texting, the thumb, all that thumb stuff, it kind of dehydrates that tissue and overuses a bunch of different things. Let's take the ball to the next hand and get as deep between those fingers as possible, making that fist. So whether you're driving, typing, or I realize there's probably other folks in the field that would be doing a lot of like the work of fixing things and cleanup and the kind of mechanical work with your hands. And that too, like the overuse of that can lead to exhaustion in all the things. And this can help to keep the tissue hydrated, functioning well, keep all of your muscles and tissues working well together. And then keep moving across here to reduce wear and tear. Right? And then in front of that thumb webbing, just give it a couple of squeezes in here. Good. So here comes one of my favorite things. You're going to work with your forearm. And sometimes it's nice to have your arm just kind of draped across your desk or your table in front of you. You can still take that firm ball. Again, you could swap it out for this large one if this one feels a little too pokey or particular. Again, there could be a super ball kind of this size that you found around your house, or randomly that's a nice size too. But we're going to start up high. No, we're going to start by your wrist and almost use this. It's almost like a magic eraser at first. You're just kind of going to push down into the tissue. I'm not at the area closest to me. It's that area of your forearm just a little bit further away. And down here, it might not feel like much. You're just going to kind of massage the tissue on that kind of outer part, the pinky finger side, and just kind of start to trace up the arm. You're kind of going right around the bones here. And you may not feel a ton. It might be tender or sore, just kind of like you're massaging the tissue. As you get up the forearm and you get to the bigger belly of the muscle here, here's when you can start to play around a bit. So a couple different ways you can move the tissue here. You can roll the ball over your skin there. So just in one small area, roll the ball over the skin, right? And you're exploring, maybe some of that tissue is tender. And then maybe you find a tender spot there and you pin the tissue down. You can use your hands, your fingers, and it's like your skin, it's like the ball is stuck to your skin and you move your skin around with the ball, if that makes any sense. Good. It's just another way to steer the tissue. You can also pin that tissue down and start wiggling your fingers. You feel how now you can really feel that your fingers are very much controlled from above. When your fingers wiggle, all that wiggles under the ball. Good. And then pause there. Then you can go up a little bit higher and do the same things. You're rolling around, explore that area, rolling on top of the skin gently in a way that feels good. And you might notice again, as we get higher, there's going to be more of that belly of the muscle, more of that fascia that feels perhaps tender. You can pin that tissue down and move your skin around, right? And you might kind of clunk over some of that. And then you can pause there and you could wiggle your fingers for another way to shear that tissue, right? If you rotate, that's going to shift it. If you wiggle, and then you pause, and I have room to maybe go one higher. Same thing. You're not, even though this is great for your elbows, anybody with tennis elbow, it's great to open up this fascia down here. Often it's coming from a lot of malalignment or overcompensation, coming from the whole forearm being tight. So rolling around here, noticing if there's tender areas. If there are, pin one of those down and move the skin around. And being reasonable and gentle, right? You're in charge. You're not trying to poke a hole in your body here. It's just a lovely massage sort of feeling. And then pin that down and hold still, and you can wiggle your fingers. Good. And then just pause. And just feel for a second, move, feel, notice how you might have a little bit more space or ease, breath down into your forearms that has not existed. And then we're gonna do the same thing on the other side. So starting down low, again, it's more towards the outside of the forearm rather than close to you if your forearm is across this way. And just starting just by your wrist. For some of you, sometimes if the wrist is a little bit tender or sore, you might have a little more soreness or tenderness low down. But find a little moment down here. Again, it might not feel like that much, but you can move and roll. You need to wiggle there, you could. We'll spend a little less time down low and move up a little bit higher, rolling around, moving the skin, trying some wiggles. And then moving up higher, rolling around, you might start to find a little bit more interesting sensations, a little more tenderness potentially. You can pin the skin and move around. And really using the support of your fingers and hands to do the heavy lifting here, right? Instead of pushing from your shoulders and irritating your neck and shoulders or overworking them, kind of just letting your fingers gather around your arm, wiggling, and then moving higher, rolling around at first, exploring what's going on up here. It might be different than the other side. And pinning the tissue and moving that around. It's very clunky on this side for me. Clunk, clunk, a little tender. Feels like no one has paid attention to this part of my body. I definitely haven't. Sometimes you'll get that feeling of just like, oh, wow. Oh, no one, I have not paid attention to this part yet. Wiggle your fingers. That's what is going on for me on this side. And then I'm at the highest point at this moment, rolling and pinning. Get that little like, oh yes, please, please and thank you. Where has this been all my life? Good. And wiggling. And if you think about working with fascia, I think I've said it a lot, like clearing out cobwebs, right? Cobwebs, those areas that your body has, it's kind of no one's looked at in a while. And you're able to get in there and clear them out and have them be part of the house again, right? Have them be part of the map, have them be part of the whole communicating system instead of just a dark corner where no one ever goes. It's helpful for your joints to have all of that access. Good. And then from here, we can fit, and if you want to notice, just kind of let your arms hang out by your side. And we've talked about how related the hands are to the neck and shoulders. And just notice if after only dealing with that much of your hands and forearms, if there's something different about the flow of your shoulders. We'll end this one with our rinsing down the back of your fingers. And I'm not talking about down the back of the whole hand. You know how thin that skin is, and we're right on bone and tendon. So you can pay more attention to the fingers. I don't have much room to really show. I'll try to go sideways. Down the fingers. So you're getting down, that rinsing down the back of one hand, but you're also getting up, that rinse up the other hand. And you're getting on each finger, in between and next to, and kind of all over the place for a little final, it's almost like an asking for flow again. Our fascial system ideally is a fluid system. Like I said, sometimes it's like more like cobwebs in there. Sometimes it's like a dried out sponge that's not really, right? And you know how firm a dried out sponge gets. It's not a lot of movement. Switch sides, same thing. So all of this fascial work that we've been doing with the balls has to do with hydrating that tissue that surrounds all your nerves, all your muscle tissue, really, and all of the vascular system. It's just kind of what makes up just about everything else, or surrounds everything. And when it's dried out or dehydrated, as you can imagine, all the stuff, the working parts within it, are not going to function as well. And with friction in the hands, you could do that on the table one at a time, or kind of a quick, easy way is just both hands at the same time. And take a moment and just feel into arms down by your side. Feel how arms, shoulders, maybe you want to move around a little bit, get a little gooey. Notice that there's some space to be had. There's maybe a little bit easier flow. And I'll introduce one last really quick thing, and just we'll do more of this next week, and you can do more of this the rest of the day. You could take this large ball and just start kind of painting from sternum under collarbone wide. Just a little kind of painting roll, minimal effort. You don't want to stress out your shoulders just to make this happen. And you can kind of paint wide as low as feels comfortable, as low as you want. But starting under the collarbones, do that a couple times to one side, and then from sternum under collarbone. And you're only rolling out as far as it feels really comfortable. Like going too far might irritate one shoulder. Just a little rinse. Wide chest. Couple times to finish us off. Once you've done both sides, again, sit tall, possibly close your eyes, or just sit with your shoulders feeling easily wide without squeezing back. Your sternum heading toward vertical, dropping down, low ribs in line, breath in that kidney space like we always talk about. And just take a breath into that and notice if you've got some space in the front without having to squeeze your shoulder blades back. If you've got some flow into the arms, some awareness of your arms as connected to your chest, or even to your heart if you want to go that far. One more breath into that space you've opened and created for yourself. And that is it for today. Really lovely work. So today, just like we kind of got to go to things related to the hands, but a little bit off-roading to get a more full experience, we'll do the same for your feet, when we'll include the lower legs a little bit. In front of your shins is an amazing place to get to with the balls as well. So that will be for next week. Please continue to keep the balls out where you can see them at home or at work, and just play with them. Every time you see them, do one thing that you know you love that feels good on your body. It doesn't have to be perfectly how I taught them. You do you. Find and explore. You can do no wrong if you listen to your body. And that's it for today. And let me know how it goes as you explore.
Thanks, Zoe.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. So good to see you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye, guys. Bye.